Hello, listeners. Jordan here. I just want to let you know that you can listen to Nighttime early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Include it with Prime.
You are listening to Keep Canada Weird, a weekly weird news roundup by the Nighttime Podcast.
Handsome Aaron Airport. We are back for our 156th episode. This is going to be a big one. I'm excited. But how are you?
Oh, I'm very well. Thanks for asking. I'm equally as excited for this episode. 156, you say. I trust you that is the number, that is correct.
Before we get into the stories, though, we got to talk about something that we talk about at the beginning of every week. We got to talk about our special drinks. Since I'm expecting this is going to be a longer episode than normal, I'm actually double fisting.
Oh, wow.
What I have in my right hand is my orange Pico tea, which is caffeinated. So that's going to help give me the wind beneath my wings to power me through. In my left hand, I have a new Sprite, and it's a cherry lime flavored Sprite. I'll be honest, I had one already, though. I'm not crazy about them. They kind of taste like alcohol.
Oh, really? I like it when you open the drink and taste it live on the episode.
Yeah, it's still mediocre.
Okay, still tastes the same as earlier. Yeah.
Yeah. What you got over there?
Okay, I've got a doozy of a special drink for you tonight. I really wanted to step up my special drink game, so I came tonight with a Robbins coffee.
What? You swung by on the way?
Yeah, this is the first time in 156 episodes that we've had a Robbins coffee actually on the show. We talk about it all the time. We talk about how I drink it in my regular life every day, but I've never had it on the show.
Here on your professional life, you haven't had it.
Delicious, just as I expected.
We have two voicemails I want to start the show off with, and this is an appropriate point to play them because it's two voicemails that pertain to our special drinks. First one is a listener named Jonathan. He has, I don't know if it's a question, some criticism, or maybe a recommendation for our special drinks segment. Here's what he has to say.
Hey, just a thought for you. Why do you use the word pop all the time instead of soda? Pop sounds so cheap. Soda sounds more elegant, more wealthy. Just a thought. This is Jonathan from Ponoka, Alberta.
Is soda more elegant than pop? I think it's just a regional thing. In Cape Breton, I've always called it pop. Soda to me is like that carbonated water stuff. It's like a whole different thing.
Well, I often refer to it as both soda pop. That's how I will often refer to it. But if I'm in a hurry, I'll probably just say pop.
Yeah, I would feel awkward saying soda. So to answer your question, Jonathan, maybe soda does sound classier to your ears, but it would fall clumsily out of my mouth because my whole life I was raised to call it pop. And I can't forsake my upbringing by changing that.
No, it would be a dishonor to your parents.
And dishonest. I'm not going to do it. Another voicemail relating to our special drinks. This one is certainly a recommendation. You recall last week we talked about putting together a series of episodes that follow along, that specifically follow along with kind of story threads that arced over several episodes. A listener named Christy has an idea for one, and seeing as I'm playing it now, you can probably guess what it is.
This is Christy from California, and you guys were just talking about going down memory lane with some of the themes that thread throughout multiple episodes, and I was thinking a great one would be your special beverage for the day, and it would be fun to see all the different flavors and things you guys have tried, plus listener feedback. Keep it up. Love the show.
What do you think of that idea? Is there enough meat on our special drinks to have an episode where we go back and examine when that ritual began?
So basically an omnibus of special drinks is what we'd be doing.
Yeah, and that's not the first request I had for it. I had an email where someone asked if we had a list of the special drinks that we had tried so far and what we recommend and what not. And
it would be an interesting listen. It would be hours long.
that's the problem.
I don't think that's the problem. I think it's the kind of thing that someone who's riddled with anxiety would fall asleep to.
What a weird way to fall asleep. What really works for me is hearing two people rapid fire pops and assorted special
Yeah,
drinks. Man,
but
someone would enjoy that.
people fall asleep to weirder things than that, though. Like that's probably on the more normal side of things to fall asleep to.
Yes, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Yeah, and I find our generation, we can't just fall asleep. We have to have something going on in the background, kind of distracting our minds, turning our brains off, relaxing us. And a lot of people really like to listen to very normal kind of things where nothing is happening. And it's just very easy to relax you and to fall asleep.
Yeah, well, I bet you there's a lot of people who enjoy falling asleep listening to us talk.
Yeah, yeah.
Shh, go to sleep.
Everything's going to be okay. Your crippling credit card debt is going to disappear.
I want to ask you about one thing, though, before we move on. Last week, we talked about how Hudson Bay, Canada's oldest company, the controversial Hudson Bay, as I've learned in my research, thank you, Monica. When we talked last week, they were applying for basically permission to begin liquidating their stores. Since that episode, that has been approved. Liquidation on at the Hudson Bay at all but I think 5 or 6 locations has already begun yesterday. Did you go to the Mayflower Mall in your hometown to see what kind of deals could be found at the Bay before it was buried 6 feet under?
You know I did, because there's a good chance I'm at the mall regardless of liquidation sales. So
That's just a bonus.
right, but the liquidation sales were to begin this past Monday. I was there and I walked around and I did not see any specific liquidation sales at that moment. I went back today, as I often do, at the mall almost every day. And yeah, I saw they had official signs up. The sign as you walked in said from 15% to 40% off. I walked around the Bay quickly and I was only seeing signs that said 15%. And it certainly wasn't enough to excite me and get me to purchase something.
It's going to get there. The way liquidation sales will work is they'll slowly ramp up the sales until there's nothing left in the store. So give it another week or so, and that's when, though it'll be slim pickings, but it'll be 60% off. But what I was thinking and actually researching and reading about is there was kind of an unseen issue that we didn't discuss last week. Yeah, Hudson Bay is going to fall, and that's not really a surprise to probably anyone. But what does this mean for the malls across Canada that rely on a store the size of the Bay to serve as their anchor? There is a bit of discussion that this may be the beginning of a major challenge for Canadian shopping malls. And you and I are both mall rats, mall lovers. I love to roam around them. And the thought of any of my sweet malls going away, that scares me.
It terrifies me. Like you say, it's an anchor store for our local mall here, the Mayflower Mall, and it takes up a big chunk, a big percentage of that mall.
What is that going to be? Because those stores don't exist anymore.
No. So they're going to have to turn it into smaller stores. Like, it's not going to, it's not going to be, they'll chop it up into sections and lease out those sections to smaller stores to come in, and the mall will look completely different because that bay has been there my entire life.
Yeah. And although you are speaking specifically about the mall in your hometown, those same thoughts and issues can apply to the mall and a lot of people listening's hometown. So it's going to be interesting to see how the next year or two play out in retail spaces, specifically shopping malls. But we don't have time to ponder that tonight. We have to get into our mission, which is keeping Canada weird by seeking out and highlighting the unique and offbeat Canadian stories that played out across the past week. And as we've been teasing from the very beginning, tonight on episode 156, we have a full card. We have 3 weird news stories related to the ongoing American and Canadian conflict. We have a story about dumb cops, a story about an odd retail theft trend, and we're going to reveal the first eligible correspondent in the Keep Canada Romantic Dating Club. This is going to be a big one. Are you ready for this?
I am ready.
All right. Top up that special drink while the first ad break of the night plays, then we'll get into it. It's not necessarily weird, a trade war, annexation of a nation. That's not weird, but I figure we have to approach the topic. Do you think it's safe to do so?
We should do so, but with very, very carefully, respectfully, and with gloves.
Okay, I just don't want anyone to say, I like to keep Canada weird before you got political.
Well, we don't take political stances on this show, and
Yeah.
we'll touch on the stories, and we'll see how it goes.
Okay. What we're looking for is the weird and absurd aspects of the Canadian-American conflict. And I'll tell you, there is no shortage of that. This entire segment is going to be a trilogy of nonsense related to the Canadian-American trade war. Let's get into the first story. This one seems like something pulled straight from like a Saturday Night Live sketch or something. We'll call it the library at the heart of the American and Canadian conflict. Let me tell you about it. A quaint and historic library that straddles the American-Canadian border has become the latest battleground in the increasingly petty trade war. The Haskell Free Library and Opera House in Quebec has served as a symbol of cross-border harmony for decades, but it now finds itself at the heart of a national security crackdown. Here's the story of the most complicated library in Canada.
This small town in Quebec has found itself caught in the middle of the political war between Canada and the US. And this library has become the latest symbol of that tension and resistance. The Haskell Free Library and Opera House has been here since 1904 and has always been accessible to people on both sides of the border. But soon, Canadians who want to check out a book will need a library card and a passport. In January, the US upped the ante. The Secretary of Homeland Security, Christine Nome, visited the library and referred to Canada in front of staff from both sides of the border, the 51st state. Now, the U.S. announced it's ending the casual interpretation of the border that runs through the library. Up until now, people were able to use this sidewalk to cross into Vermont, then walk over to the front door to access the library. There is no front door on the Canadian side. Canadians will now need to show their library membership to cross the sidewalk and enter the front door. But as of October 1st, everyone will need to make a detour to the nearby official border crossing.
I think he's picking on the wrong country because we're not going to back down to a big bully that doesn't know anything.
The library and the community are taking matters into their own hands. They started a fundraiser to build a door, a ramp, and a sidewalk on the Canadian side. That doesn't come cheap. They estimate around $100,000. Once that's in place, Canadians will be able to access these stacks again. Once you are in the library, it's all business as usual.
When you think of the border, you think of like this kind of security fence-in area, and everyone lines up their cars and goes through the little gates and stuff. But the border in some areas isn't like that. And this is an example of the border going directly through the center of a library. I'm kind of surprised that this was even okay and not an issue, even before all this happened. But I guess, I don't know, people live in border communities, but this is simply like crossing the street and you're in the United States.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that this would have been allowed in the past. It seems a part of me can kind of understand why you'd want to put a stop to this, even though it's
like it kind of had to be dealt with, and get on that now.
Yeah. I was surprised that this was happening. I didn't really know about this library. I understand why they'd want to do that.
It sucks because our relationship with America has always been in a state where it wasn't worth dealing with something like that. So, and that's why I think this is kind of an example of taking like this simple, pleasant thing that wasn't causing anyone any grief and turning it into just a bit more hard nose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're seeing this in a lot of different avenues of the relationship between Canada and the United States. And we have many Keep Canada Weird correspondents in the United States. So certainly seeing this relationship start to unravel, it concerns me, and I'm sure it concerns you over the status of our correspondents on the other side of the border.
You know what? It sort of bothers me, but it doesn't seem to be like a conflict or a disagreement between people.
No, but I'm worried about access to our correspondents.
That's an issue, yeah, and it's
because often we're dropping off dossiers to them with important mission information. and different sites that they need to check out and gather information on. And oftentimes we want to bring them across the border to look into Canadian weird issues as well.
That's true. And as of now, we've received no pushback or even questioning of the authority granted in the Keep Canada Weird correspondent badges we've been sending out. There doesn't seem to be any kind of problems with the diplomatic immunity you get from those. So that's not an issue yet. In this case with the library, we do have one update. Is shortly after that article aired, they did, I think it was a GoFundMe or some kind of crowdfunding campaign to raise money to put a separate entrance, because as it stands now, where the way the library sits on the border is the entrance to the library is on the American side. So it used to be that people could just walk around the building into Vermont and go in the front door and, no big deal. What you have to do as of, I think, like 3 weeks time is you'll have to actually go through one of the border checkpoints and, go through that whole process and drive to the library and go in and use it business as usual. But what the GoFundMe and the crowdfunding campaign was for was to renovate the library, to add an additional entrance on the Canadian side of the building. It seems that they've already exceeded their goal for that. So it appears that is going to be the solution. And
so what about checking your passport, though? If you're entering in on the Canadian side, so they make an access point on the Canadian side of the library, a Canadian goes in, do they have to show their passport to a librarian? How is that working?
In the library, it's almost going to be like neutral territory.
International waters or something?
Basically, yeah. So you walk in the door on the Canadian side and you can go through the whole library, but you can't leave out the American exit.
So what I would like to know, if anybody who's been there, what happens, who's there to stop you if you come in on the Canadian side, and who's going to stop you from leaving the library on the American side and then running amok in America, whatever people
I
do?
think a common sense is probably going to stop you. Like, now is not the time to be messing with something like that.
But what about, 6 months ago? Who was stopping you then?
Yeah. Well, maybe it didn't matter then.
It had to have mattered, though, because
I don't think they're worried about it wasn't so much a problem with a person walking across. They didn't want like a truckload of goods going across. I wonder if people were moving truckloads of goods.
Yeah, but if people know, if somebody is trying to get into the United States who's not supposed to be in there and doesn't want to go through border security and knows that they can just casually stroll through a library and pop out on the other side.
Yeah. It kind of makes sense that they're doing this. I hate to support it, but I kind of agree.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, 6 months ago, did the quiet librarian stop a person from doing that? Or was it the honor system? Or what was it that was... There had to have been some security. There had to have been something in place.
I guess this is just one of the little sore thumbs that are going to pop up as a result of this conflict, but it will not be the only one. Let's move on to another story pulled directly from the archives of nonsense from the past week related to the American-Canadian conflict. The latest stone toss seems to be a bizarre and stomach-churning act of vandalism. The victim? A Wayne Gretzky statue in Edmonton. The Great One's face seems to have been defaced with feces. And the motive here is probably political.
This Wayne Gretzky statue placed right outside Rogers Place is all cleaned up by Friday afternoon, but earlier in the day, the statue was defaced, covered in fecal matter. Our crews noticed the vandalized figure while covering the Oilers Friday morning. Feces can be found smeared on Gretzky's face and parts of the Oilers jersey. This comes at a time when Gretzky has faced a number of controversial moments. To the Four Nations face-off final after he was seen giving a thumbs up to American players while appearing not to acknowledge the Canadian team. In November, Gretzky was at Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort in Florida on election night, while he also attended the president's inauguration in Washington in January. It's unclear if the act of vandalism has any ties to politics. Some Edmontonians we spoke to believe Gretzky's latest controversies may have something to do with it. while others, including an American Oilers fan, was surprised to hear about the news.
That's despicable. I mean, yeah, okay, because he's friends with Trump, you know, people are going to take that hard a reaction.
I just don't understand why somebody would do that. And what kind of feces was it?
Edmonton police say they have not received any reports regarding this vandalism at this time.
First thing, I want to apologize for that reporter. It seems like he was broadcasting from like the busiest street in Edmonton. So as he's talking, there's just like trucks plowing through. But as far as the story, is there any other reason someone would smear feces on a statue other than some kind of like political or ideological statement? It's not just like, I need to get rid of this feces, I'll throw it at that statue.
Well, sometimes you could have no control over where your feces goes, depending on what you ate that day and what direction your feces projector is pointed at.
I don't think it's ever pointed towards the face of a presently controversial
You don't
figure
know, because if
statue.
somebody bends over to tie their shoe, and then all of a sudden, you know, has an incident,
Nature calls.
and it calls quickly, and violently, and next thing you know, it's an unfortunate accident, and it sprays on the wrong statue, and now here we are.
Yeah, so you're going to give them a benefit of a doubt.
I'm not going to say if I were a betting man, which I'm not, but if I were, I would bet that somebody did this intentionally with, I would say, probably their own feces that they saved in a Ziploc bag. You and I love Ziploc bags, and I'm sure this person, you know, put their feces in the Ziploc bag before they left the house and went down there in the dead of night and smeared it on Mr. Gretzky. And that's my guess. But
I think to solve this mystery, we would just need to answer the question one of the people in that article had presented, which is like, what type of feces is it?
It doesn't matter what species the feces came from.
Well,
but even if it was human, it's not accidental. Let's be real here. It's high up on a statue.
So you're right.
So I was just trying to, you know, reach for the stars on some kind of an explanation as to how.
I was letting you go. I was willing to consider that it was a horrible misunderstanding.
Yeah, no, I don't even remotely believe that was accidental.
It wasn't. There's no question. This has to be vandalism related to this whole conflict. Just like, you know, right now, if your Tesla gets all scratched up, it's probably not because you're a bad parker.
No, but there is the off chance that somebody was holding their keys and was late for work,
flailing their arms,
running, and then they tripped over a rock, and then they bumped into your Tesla with their keys and scratched it up a bunch.
In the shape of a penis.
Yeah. But it's really easy to make the shape of a penis accidentally, because it is just two bumps and a really long rainbow.
All right, let's move on. We have our third nonsensical story pulled from the American-Canadian trade war. And this one, I think, may be my favorite because it has artistic expression at the very heart of it. An artist in Ontario named Barbara Salzberg Matthews is using food as a medium. Using one slice of deli meat at a time, she creates cold-cut critiques of political figures, served up with a heavy side of social commentary. Here's the story.
When most people go to the fridge, they look for things to fill their bellies. Barbara Salzberg Matthews looks for things to fill her canvas.
I was doing hyper-realistic acrylic painting of architectural buildings, and I found it was harder and harder. I don't know why my arm was getting weak, and my hands started to shake. And turned out I have Parkinson's disease.
Depressed, she took a 2-year break from painting, but really got back into art when she realized she could use food, in particular, meat.
This is a good shape. Oh, this might work for shading.
Her carnivorous creations are modeled after political figures, ones that are known to make people a little salty.
I call Donald Trump Deli Don. And I also did Putin. Mad Vlad, I call him.
And of course, her latest meat masterpiece.
I'm making a portrait of this version of Elon Musk.
It only took Barbara about an hour to make.
Elon's expression is more like this.
Then, with a bit of Photoshop, voila, a cut above other portraits of the billionaire businessman. And together, they make
The Three Amigos. So I've got Musk, Muscolini, Mad Vlad, and Deli Don.
That's great. Was there a name for Doug Ford, or just
Meathead.
a subtle dig at Ontario's premier, but that's what Barbara says is the point, to address tough political topics like tariffs with a sense of humor. None of it meant to offend, instead spark a laugh, or maybe even give people some food for thought.
So you're not eating these masterpieces
No, I couldn't bring myself to do that. I'd get sick.
For anyone who hasn't seen this story or her work, I suggest looking it up. She is an incredible artist. The realism she's able to put together using, like, again, deli meat and finger foods is incredible.
Yeah, no, it's impressive. I was surprised when I saw the finish, because at first when you're watching the news broadcast, she's kind of picking out some deli meats and looking around, but then when you see a finished product, you're like, wow, that's actually impressive. It's very well done.
Yeah, she's got an eye for it. And even during the news piece, you kind of see her do one. At the beginning of the article of the piece, she opens up her crisper in her fridge and she pulls out kind of like a charcuterie board kind of thing and some ham, throws it on a plate as she's talking. And by the end of it, she has that, just with a couple movements of the meat, she has it looking like Donald Trump's face. I like this version or this form of social commentary because it doesn't require like name calling and the infusion of hate. It's just like a silly little statement.
Well, it's pretty obvious by the end results that the artist has a very negative outlook on these individuals.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
But because basically what she's making is unflattering portraits of these people using ham and cheap meat.
Very unflattering.
But accurate. They look good.
They look good. No, I love them, but they are very unflattering. And it's definitely, if the real people who these pieces of art inspired, their feelings would be hurt, I would dare to say.
But will any of these stories serve to reduce the tension that's boiling up within society surrounding this trade war? Like, is any of this going to stop it?
No. This is all fuel to the fire. And unfortunately, this situation between Canada and political leaders in the United States will continue on for quite a while, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I guess what we can do is just pull the little sparkly bits of oddness that come out of it and hold them up. And I think that's what we've done today. All of these stories are kind of, for the most part, kind of Canadian ways of dealing with this and just kind of Canadian stories about this. I think when I hear anything related to like a violent response to this, that's what scares me. But this idea of like feces on a statue, making meat sculptures, sending a news crew down to the border to find some people outside a library who are mad about it. That's what I'm into.
You're into that. Which one do you like the best, the feces or the deli meat?
Or the library?
Well, the library, that's its own separate thing.
Certainly the deli meat. Like, I think I would be interested in what she can put together even outside of the conflict.
Okay. Would you consider the poop on Wayne Gretzky's face to be art, or do you no?
No, I think that's low-hanging fruit.
How do you know what the person ate that day?
Oh, come on. It's a figure of speech, man.
Relax. See, this has you and I turning against each other now. We had turned a positive leaf for such a long time there. We weren't attacking each other. We were supporting each other. And then now that you just showed a side of yourself that I haven't seen in a long time.
Okay, let me take a drink of my special drink and cool down here.
Yeah.
See, maybe this trade war stuff is too heavy for us.
I think it is. Let's this be the last time.
I don't think it will. It's not going anywhere because here's the thing. If you look at 300 news stories in Canada from the last week, 280 of them are about the American-Canadian trade war. So like it or
Right.
not, if we have a show looking for weird and unique and offbeat Canadian news stories, we got to work with what we're given. We're squishing these lemons and we're pulling some lemonade out.
This is why
Sue
maybe
me if
we
you don't
should
like it.
steer away from weird Canadian news for a while, let things simmer down, and we can just do this falling asleep stuff that you and I are talking about people going to sleep listening to us.
Well, while we go into the next ad break, why don't you knock a few more people out?
Go to sleep. Everything's going to be okay. You love going to sleep, and I love putting you to sleep. This is a normal thing people do. You have anxiety, and I'm your weighted blanket. Go to sleep. Go to sleep.
Aaron, our final duo of stories for the night is going to be a duo of dumb Canadian crime stories. Do you want to hear about the crooks or the cops first?
Let's go crooks.
Let me tell you about it. Ontario police are on the hunt for a group of particularly well-smelling criminals after a string of thefts involving high-end perfumes and colognes. Surveillance footage recently captured the fragrant felons filling duffel bags in an Ottawa Shoppers Drug Mart before disappearing into the night and leaving authorities wondering, who are these beautiful smelling bandits? And what are they doing with all that perfume?
Should we stop them or not? A brazen theft at this Shoppers Drug Mart in Barrhaven Monday night. Video widely circulated online showing thieves filling bags in a big plastic container with expensive perfume and cologne before fleeing the scene. There's been a rash of thefts also targeting stores in Brockville, Arnprior, and Carleton Place.
Whether there's any connection between all of these incidents, we don't know. That's part of the ongoing investigation.
Last week in Arnprior, suspects making off with bags filled with merchandise.
These two people walked into the store, started cleaning off the perfume and cologne shelves with someone standing right there with a camera getting their images, and they did not seem to care.
At a Shoppers Drug Mart in Brockville on March 2nd, two suspects used a hammer to break the window and stole 2 cabinets worth of high-end perfume with an approximate value of $40,000.
Some of the stuff they're going after is very expensive, cologne and perfume. But what they're doing with it, are they reselling it somewhere? That has yet to be determined by the investigation.
I can just solve that part of the mystery for the cops right now. They're certainly reselling them. No one's going into a store and taking duffel bags of perfumes and cologne for personal use.
God, yeah, God, I stink. Where's a hammer?
And when you see the photos of the guys who, it's two men who go in and at least in that Shoppers Drug Mart, and they don't look like collectors of high-end perfumes and colognes.
No.
But they do look like the kind of guys you could buy stolen stuff from.
We've seen a similar theft a few months ago in a mall. I can't remember exactly where, but remember when they just kind of went into that jewelry store in that mall and just smashed the display cases and took the jewelry and just walked out, and it was just like, yeah, we don't care.
That's just normal now. We had an incident in a mall in Halifax just last week where a guy just walked out of a store with like a bag of designer sunglasses. And in that case, the security guard actually tackled him in the mall as a bunch of people stood around and watched. I was surprised to see a security guard get physical because generally security guards don't do anything either. But I can see why. Like, who wants to get stabbed over overpriced, insured cologne and perfumes and stuff? I wouldn't step in that case.
Right. But what is your job then as a security guard?
I don't know. I guess the illusion of security.
Really? Is that what's in the contract when you sign it? You're here just to create the illusion of security, not actual security.
I don't know what their actual job is. I can't imagine that they're supposed to jump on these people and do anything, because it would be more expensive to deal with the lawsuits and injuries and workers' compensation claims and all that come out of them getting punched in the face and stabbed. That would be more expensive to deal with than it would be to just put an insurance claim through on all the cologne that was stolen.
Yeah, but I'm sure professional judgment is supposed to come into play where you were talking about somebody who stole sunglasses and it was just a lone person, right? And the security guard was probably like, it's one person. It doesn't look like they have a weapon. I'm just going to tackle them. So they probably used their judgment and thought that I can realistically do something in this scenario. If you have a group of individuals that all have weapons that are smashing display cases, you're probably, as one security guard, not going to do anything about that physically because they outnumber you. They have weapons. You could get yourself killed. So
I guess maybe it's just a judgment call you make at that moment. But none of this stuff is worth getting physically harmed over. That's for sure. But something needs to be done. If people are brazenly just going into a store and just picking up stuff and putting it in a bag and walking out, as onlookers are like, whoa, filming them, and these guys have no fear, their faces in the video. I guess it's like a job for the cops to just deal with it and put an end to this. And then stores need to implement procedures to loss prevention procedures that don't involve a minimum wage employee having to put like their life on the line to take someone down over overpriced insured retail goods.
I can see you never getting a job with like the secret security or like anything like that. You'd be the worst at that.
I don't know if I would be, because I would know that one way to deal with it is to like avoid risk. And I'd be like, let's keep our expensive perfumes behind a counter. Or maybe I would revert the whole store to like, there was a store in Cape Breton where we grew up when I was a kid called Consumers Distributors. And you would go into the store and there'd be no products. It was just a bunch of catalogs. And you'd flip through the catalog and you'd see, the thing you wanted, and you would write it on a piece of paper, like, I want item 155. You give it to a worker, and then it's like they go like into the back to like a warehouse and bring it out to you. Maybe that's what we need to do, is revert back to that until society can get back on its feet.
I really hope we don't, because that really would be a buzzkill for the shopping experience of, especially when I'm looking for little things, like things that fit in my hand. And I don't want to have to find somebody and then point at a number and say, can you go get me that? And then I wander around the store some more. Then I see something else that I want or need.
But that's the thing. There's no store to roam around in. You just walk in this little lobby and there's just a bunch of catalogs. Paper catalogs.
But that's just online shopping, essentially.
Yeah, I guess the solution to a lot of this is online shopping. But we're not going to solve that. Let's leave this to the retail experts and let us focus on what we're qualified to do and focus on weird Canadian stories. We have another one. We heard about the crooks. Let's hear about the cops. They're not innocent this week either. I love a good dumb cop story, and we got a doozy coming out of Calgary. The Calgary police are on the hunt, but not for a suspect. They're looking for a bullet that one of their own officers accidentally fired out of the second-story window of their police station. While no injuries or damages have been reported, the force has been unable to find the bullet and hasn't really explained how this could even happen.
Calgary police are still searching for a bullet after a gun was unintentionally fired yesterday from a district office. At about 10:45 a.m., officers fired one round from their service-issued pistol inside of the District 2 office, so that's located on 17th Ave Southwest. The bullet traveled outside of the building through a second-story window towards the office parking lot and the community of Glendale. No one was injured and there's no property damage. The bullet hasn't yet been found and the investigation continues.
So where my mind goes when I hear that story is I want to know how it happened. How did they manage to accidentally shoot out a window towards a parking lot? That seems weird. And why do they want the bullet? Because would it not just be like a little like melted piece of metal like embedded into the ground or like a tree or something somewhere? Can you answer those three questions?
Well, I would assume they would want the bullet in order to conclude the investigation. So they would know where the bullet ended up. They could then ensure that, officially no property was damaged or no individuals were injured. So that it would put the button on this thing that they would want.
Okay, that makes sense. Just as a part of their investigation. Because whenever a cop shoots their firearm, accidentally or on purpose, and investigations carried out. So yeah, although they could probably figure out trajectory pretty easily just based on, like, he or she accidentally shot, and I use air quotes for accidentally, out the window, so it left a hole in the glass. So you'd think they could do some kind of thing to get an idea of, like, at least roughly where it would have went.
Right. I don't think they're going to lose sleep over finding the bullet or knowing exactly where it went, but I think they would like to in terms of just concluding it. But
yeah, well, they want to enough that they were willing to put out like a pretty embarrassing press release. But I guess the public's going to find out about it anyway when the report into the shot goes public. I'd just like to know how this actually happened.
Yeah.
Was he spinning the gun on his finger like Clint Eastwood in The Good and the Bad and the Ugly?
Maybe. I mean, it's a building full of guns, so I'm surprised it doesn't happen more often.
That's a good point.
So, I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. So, I mean, there's everybody in that building has a gun. So it eventually, law of averages, somebody's going to accidentally fire their gun off inside the building. And this time it shot out a window.
Yeah, I guess every day there's like a 0.01 chance that a cop accidentally shoots their gun in the police station. And in this case, in Calgary, it happened that day. And sadly, they haven't been able to find the bullet, so we're able to say, come on, guys.
Yeah.
It could have been way worse. Like, how terrifying would that have been if you were like 2 desks over from the guy who's like, you're just plugging away at your computer doing some boring paperwork about a traffic incident, and then just like, bam!
Yeah.
And he's like, oh no, this sucks.
It would be a little embarrassing where, like, you're a cop who got shot by another cop. It's like, oh, where were you? Like at a drug deal gone bad or whatever? It's like, no, I was just at my desk. I was actually telling him what a nice time I had at his barbecue. And then he shot me by accident.
It's embarrassing. I wonder if like the report into the shooting will eventually be made public, but there's probably going to be some kind of disciplinary action. It doesn't seem like you can just do that, say I'm sorry, and not it be a thing. I wonder if that will become public. I'd be curious to read like an official investigation into this sort of thing.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it would be interesting.
Yeah,
I would like all the details, please.
For me, it's like a police investigation into this is below only a police investigation into a UFO sighting.
It just sounds like a deleted scene from the movie Police Academy.
Or just
that's all it is.
You don't hear about Police Academy anymore. I loved those movies when I was a kid. The guy with all the voices.
They were very funny. I'm sure they probably don't hold up as well as we think they would, but I loved them when I was growing up.
I guarantee they don't hold up well. And I bet you there's a lot of offensive comedy in there.
A lot of problematic content.
I'm looking at the clock here. We're getting to the end of this, but we have something special coming up. Last week, we pitched a few different ideas. One was the Keep Canada Weird confession booth. We did get a few submissions related to that, but I'm going to put them on the side for now because the other idea we had last week was the Keep Canada Romantic Dating Service. We haven't really settled on a name for that, have we?
Not really.
The Keep Canada Weird Singles Club?
I just think it should just be Keep Canada Romantic. And just leave it at
we'll
that.
call it Keep Canada Romantic. Yeah. But I think regardless of what name we settle upon, anyone listening knows what we're doing. We're providing a platform for correspondents of the show to provide dating-like profiles that will air at the end of the show, and other Keep Canada Weird correspondents who feel some kind of connection or attraction to the subject can contact us, and we can arrange dates for these people if it actually goes that far. Our goal ultimately is to create a match.
And our ultimate goal is to we go on the date with them.
Potentially.
If it's possible. Like, that's perfect world stuff here. Like, this is just, if the 2 correspondents live in the same town and we can't be there, then they go out on the date and then maybe they tell us about it.
Well, you know what? It could happen tonight because we have our first submission into Keep Canada Romantic, and it's actually someone local to me. So if this works out,
Oh, wow.
this could work.
Now I drive to Halifax for that.
Before we air their profile, though, I do have a concern, and it's a concern that was raised by a listener named Mara. She likes this idea, Aaron, but she thinks you're going to be a problem. Here's what she has to say.
Hello, bus stop and handsome Aaron. This is Mara from Oklahoma in the States, your correspondent down here. I am calling because I freaking love the idea that Aaron pitched of a dating show for correspondents where you guys help matchmake them. I am a married lady, so I will be just listening and enjoying. But there is one giant glaring error that I don't think you have thought about. You are hosting a show with a co-host named Handsome Aaron, and he's already had anonymous call in. And you really think that you're not just going to get 1,000 Handsome Aaron airport suitors shooting their shot? Are you trying to crash your website? Are you trying to get the entire internet to just implode? I thought you guys were professionals here. I don't even know if this voicemail's gone through, if your website's already gone down, but you really stepped in it this time, guys.
I refuse to believe that Mara is not Aaron making a voice and leaving a voicemail.
Yeah, you caught me. Yeah, well, it certainly hasn't happened yet. Her prediction of all of these correspondents shooting their shot. So
I took a look. The website's still okay now, but
everything is the traffic is still in a normal kind of level.
People are probably busy. They'll get to it.
No, that's not happening. That's not going to happen. But this is an honest, legitimate platform for correspondents to fall in love.
Okay, this is serious. Let's hear our first contributor to Keep Canada Romantic. He's from Halifax. His name's DJ, and he's going to tell you a bit about himself.
Hi, Jordan. I've written this like an online profile, of which I am all too familiar with. I've always wanted to be roasted on this show, especially by Handsome Aaron. So don't hold back, you guys. So my quick facts. My name is DJ. I'm a male, 25 to 35, looking for a female long-term partner. I'm a Halgonian. I work a 9-to-5 job for a great local company, and I am a director of a non-profit. I spend my free time exploring this beautiful province while chasing waterfalls and ironically listening to TLC and other 90s hits. My dog is my best friend, travel companion, and currently being a co-jock. I also like nighttime drives, looking for northern lights, swimming in lakes and oceans, playing card games, and tennis. I am open to talking to anyone interested, even if you're not from Nova Scotia. So I'm comfortable with long distance, so long as you are within the true north, never 51.
Okay.
Let's break down a few of the things that he said. First of all, a director of a nonprofit? That sounds like marriage material.
Yeah. I'm kind of I don't know. I might shoot my shot with DJ.
I thought the same thing when he's like, I like long walks, exploring. It's like, Aaron would be perfect for this guy.
Yeah, no, we have a lot in common. I also, I work for a nonprofit, and
yes, that's right.
I love hiking and exploring and going on walks, and there's a lot of boxes checked there for me.
So, what do you think of DJ's profile? Does he sell it?
Yeah, I love DJ's profile. So, and DJ is casting a wide net. Smart idea. Doesn't have to be local. Can be anywhere around the country. So that really opens up the options.
What he's looking for is really a female in Canada who enjoys nature and walks, and is okay with his dog, who, as he admits, is a coach hog. And it sounds like DJ has a busy life between his job and being the director of a nonprofit. It has to be a woman who's okay with that and is going to give him the space to take care of the things that he does. And I'm sure she's out there. So if you listening heard this and think, I'd like to learn more, I'd like to meet DJ, I'd like to communicate with him, send an email to nighttimepodcast@gmail.com, and in the subject line, write Keep Canada Romantic DJ I'm interested in communicating with him. Could you connect us?
Is that all in the subject line?
That has to be in the subject line. Any typos, you're not good enough for DJ.
Okay, yeah.
Let me know. It would be amazing if we could connect someone out there. There's someone out there for everyone. It's just a question is Mrs. DJ listening to Keep Canada Weird?
That's the thing. We don't know yet. And, if DJ is not your cup of tea, if you hate dogs and you hate nature and you hate Canada, then, but you still want to meet somebody, then call in and leave your dating profile at nighttimepodcast.com/contact.
It'll be interesting to see where this goes.
Yeah, we're open to making many matches on the show. This isn't just for DJ, but DJ is where we're starting.
Well, I think we've done our work here. We found the weird, unique, and offbeat Canadian news stories. I just finished both my special drinks, and I'm ready to go to the bathroom. I'm proud of the work we did tonight, Aaron.
Yeah, we put in a heavy load tonight.
Let's wrap it up then. On that note, let's put a bow on this. Handsome Aaron Airport, until next time.
Jordan, Backhoe, Bus Stop, Bonaparte, until next time.
When you see a statue of a controversial figure, take a smell and just make sure everything's cool before you go over and admire it too close.
Oh, okay. And Jordan, until next time, if you need help falling asleep, I am just a phone call away, and I'll whisper in your ear whatever you want to hear.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's non-sexual.
I want to thank you for helping Aaron and I fulfill our mission to keep Canada weird. If you got a news story from your area that you'd like to share with us, or have any thoughts or theories or opinions on anything we discussed tonight, we'd love to hear from you. You can contact us by using the voice recorder that can be found at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. And on that topic, I want to give a big thank you to this episode's correspondents. If your voice message was aired tonight, you can email me your address. My email is nighttimepodcast@gmail.com, and I'll get a Keep Canada Weird badge and swag pack sent out to you. I just ask that you wear the badge proudly and responsibly. Next, a big thanks goes out to Aaron for another great night, you, Nicole, for the intro and outro voiceovers, and Monty Data for the outro version of O Canada. And then, of course, a sincere and massive thank you goes out to each and every one of you listening. Your support makes this show possible. And if you'd like to support the show even more, please consider a subscription to the premium feed, which can be found at nighttimepodcast.com/subscribe. The premium feed costs just a couple dollars a month, but that money will fund the creation of new episodes of the show, and it'll give you those episodes 2 days early, ad-free, and access to a back catalog of episodes. And even if you don't want to go premium, you can still support the show by sharing this episode on social media. That helps a lot too, and it's free. Your support is very much appreciated. So with all that said, until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and together, let's keep Canada weird.
Keep Canada Weird is written, hosted, and produced by the Nighttime Podcast.